This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
Rapper Gangstalicious has been shot.
Again?
Again.
All right, let's talk about this Deshaun Watson shoulder thing, man. It's the injury that won't go away, and it's not a simple matter. Some people are saying that there's just a lot of opinions out here about this shoulder injury. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a doctor or diagnose Deshaun Watson or tell you if I think he's healthy enough to play. All I know is that from looking at this situation, it seems as if we need to come to grips with the reality that maybe we can't rely on Deshaun Watson for the rest of the year. That doesn't mean he won't play. I think he will play again this year. But we should not be relying on Deshaun Watson. And that's a terrible place to be in offensively when you already know Nick Chubb's out. But I think that's just where we need to be. If he plays, we don't know what could set him back. It didn't take much to set him back, if I'm just taking what's coming out of the building at face value, right? And there's reason to not take what's coming out of the building at face value at this point, because there's not a ton of this that really lines up and makes sense when you compare it to other injuries of this kind. It just seems like a different beast. But if I am to take what they are saying at face value, and this is their words, not mine, Deshaun Watson took that hit. Because of that hit, there is what they're calling residual swelling. Now, when you look up residual swelling, it's something that's associated with like normal sweat, like it's normal everyday soreness is what residual swelling is. That's what they're saying that they're being cautious about, is the residual swelling. Now, maybe they feel like they can't do an ultrasound or an MRI on the shoulder because of the swelling. Maybe they're saying that the swelling is doing something with the rotator cuff, but all they're telling us is residual swelling. And they ruled him out on a Wednesday. And the most common belief of what residual swelling is, while it is something that can linger after a surgery, this is something that's commonly associated with when you work out, you're sore the next day. Micro tears also associated with that kind of phenomenon. This don't make sense. It just doesn't. Now, I don't think the team is hiding anything, and I don't think Deshaun Watson is hiding anything. But what I do know is at this point, I can't rely on Deshaun Watson. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. At this point, you're in the same boat that you were kind of in last year when you didn't, during the offseason, when you didn't know how long his suspension would be. This is the exact same thing, functionally speaking. And just like at some point last year, they had to make a decision on what they're going to do for the rest of the year in case he can't be out there. This Cleveland Browns team needs to make a decision on what they can do if Deshaun Watson's going to be out there. And I know there's going to be people who flood my comment section. It might be the top comment. Quincy, it's just an injury. He'll be back in 2 weeks. Quincy, it's just an injury. Just let him rest for a couple weeks. He'll be back by the Pittsburgh game. We have just done this. And what set him back was him falling on the ground. What gives you any reason to believe that if he just takes 2 more weeks off, he'll be fine? There's nothing that leads me to believe that. Now, you can say he was clearly hurt when he was throwing the ball. Apparently, He told people, not Kevin, he told people, I am ready to go without restrictions. It was all over that broadcast at the beginning of the game. I'm ready to go without restriction. That's what he said for 3 days going into that game. He didn't say, I'll try to give it a go. He didn't say, I feel good about giving it a go. He said, without restriction, I'm giving it a go. I'm unrestricted. Pretty much telling me I'm as healthy as I'm going to be with this thing. He falls on the ground one time. He can't play. Either this injury is so delicate that you cannot risk him out there, or it's not. The in-between stuff's got to stop. Pick one. If you're Deshaun Watson, if you're Deshaun Watson's people, if you're the Browns. Either this injury is of the so delicate variety that one fall could cause a tear that will set him back into Cam Newton shoulder surgery, or it's not. If it is obviously of the, we're afraid of the Cam Newton shoulder, he don't need to play for the rest of the year. He don't need to play anymore until you don't have to worry about that. But if you're already at that point and he can't play, then I don't know what's going on. I cannot come on here and sell you something that I don't believe to be true. Now, here's what I believe to be true about this team. I think this is a very good football team. I think this is a very talented football team. I think this is one of the rare football teams that can make a playoff run without a franchise quarterback. The defense has been that good, and Myles Garrett has been that good. Those are the things I believe to be true. I think it's still going to be a good football team. I think you can figure out quarterback, whether you trade for Jacoby Brissett, whether you decide to give DTR another shot. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on this DTR thing. I think DTR can come out there and play well if he's prepared, if he gets a real chance to start. Last time he started was a real chance. If he has a real opportunity, I expect him to play better. You know, you can't judge somebody by their first NFL game. That's kind of silly. So I think you got options to figure this out and be relatively fine. Are you going to be a Super Bowl competitor? Probably not, right? And you were hanging on to a thread of that hope with Deshaun Watson, hopefully being like 2020 Deshaun Watson. But I'm sure all of us are at the point where we're not even thinking about 2020 Deshaun Watson. We're just trying to think about Deshaun Watson playing football. And at this point, the expectations have reset to let's make the playoffs and then see what happens. But I can't sit here and tell you I think Deshaun Watson's going to be reliable this season. From on the field standpoint, from a standpoint of him being available. I cannot look at this situation and tell you with a straight face, oh yeah, he's just going to get healthy and play in 2 weeks. I don't know if it's that simple. And I don't know if it's because of the injury or if it's because of paranoia around the injury or if it's because overabundance of caution from one party or the other. I don't know what's causing it. They would have to tell us that. But what I do feel fairly confident in is that going forward, this team should see any snaps they get from Deshaun Watson as a surprise and not be relying on it. Because none of this screams to me we can rely on him. Again, he went through that whole ordeal 4 weeks after that rotator cuff injury happened. Got cleared himself, practiced 2 days, told us he was going to be out there with no restriction. He takes a fall on the back and a hit on the shoulder and a fall on the back, and we're back to where we were a month ago. What about this sounds reliable? What about this sounds like, hey, we just give it 2 more weeks? And to the people who are like, we should have just put him on IR. Okay, you're still dealing with this. It's still not reliable. Whether they handled it right to begin with doesn't change that the situation is the situation. And if you put him on IR and you activated him this week because it was 4 weeks after the IR, you would still be in this same spot where he would go out there, take a hit, and be set to square one. Either it's that fragile or it's not. I don't know. I'm not looking at the MRIs. I'm not his physician, and I'm not going to tell you to listen to anybody who isn't his physician and looking at his MRI. Like, people on the internet, even doctors on the internet, can have all kind of opinions they want. If you're not looking at his chart, I don't really care. Like, it only means like you're guessing at a certain point if you're not the doctor of Deshaun Watson in any capacity, right? So I'm not here to tell you what is or is not going on with that shoulder. But what I am here to tell you is that we're probably looking at not relying on Deshaun Watson for the rest of the year. I don't think this is going to be a 2-week thing. I don't think this is going to be a 1-week thing. I would love for this video to age terribly and to be horribly wrong. Deshaun Watson comes back, plays like 2020 again, and this team goes all the way to where we think they can go. I would love to tell you that. And I would love to be wrong. But if I'm looking at this situation today, if I'm reading this situation for what it is today, I think the Browns are a great team that's just going to be unreliable at quarterback. We might get Deshaun Watson for a game or 2 here and there. We might get him for a game or 3 here and there. He might miss one. I don't know how many games he ends up playing this season. And again, he will play. But I think it's always going to be a question for the rest of the year. If he's healthy, can he play? We're always going to be asking ourselves that. I don't think he's getting off the injury report anytime soon. And even if he does play, he will remain on the injury report the week after. It's just an unreliable situation. Now, what do you do in this spot? I think if you don't think that PJ is somebody that can hold that down as the veteran behind him, all right, let's bring in Jacoby Brissett, or if there is another veteran out there that you feel like can learn this system relatively quick, bring that guy in. This is a season that needs a Jacoby Brissett type figure. If you don't feel like PJ can do it, and a lot of disrespect has been going to PJ, calling him like the worst quarterback of all time. The only thing the brother has done is win 2 games. So like, put some respect on PJ's name. He's like 2 wins away from winning more than Jacoby Brissett did here. So like, put some respect on his name, but I would prefer Jacoby Brissett. Maybe they feel like PJ's enough. Maybe they feel like they can groom DTR into that spot. But it is clear to me, if you're the Cleveland Browns, it would behoove you to have a backup plan at quarterback for the rest of the season that you feel good about, because I think Deshaun Watson's health is going to be unreliable for the rest of the year. I would love to sit here and sell you this dream, but I just don't think that's the truth, that he's just going to deal with this in a week and be fine, or deal with this in 2 weeks and be fine, or deal with this in 4 weeks and be fine. I just don't believe that. Nothing I'm seeing, hearing, anything tells me that that's going to be what it is. I think it's time for the Browns to be prepared that this situation at quarterback is just going to be a bit more unstable than they anticipated. That doesn't mean that they have to be a bad football team. That doesn't mean that the season is over, especially when the team is 4-2. And that doesn't mean that things can't be salvaged. And that doesn't mean that, hey, if he gets it right, he gets healthy in January, things start to stabilize and you go on a run. But just preparing everybody. I don't think this is the only week we're dealing with this. I'm preparing myself too. Maybe I'm just talking to myself, but this ain't going to be over this week. This ain't going to be over next week. This is going to be something that lingers for the rest of the season. I would prepare yourself for that possibility. He will play. It will linger. He will not play. Of course it will linger. He will play some games. For 3 games you think it's done. It's going to linger. It's going to linger. This thing is not going away. I think we need to accept that. But that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.